On the question of technology, you have really espoused something called public interest technology, as I understand it, here at the Ford Foundation. Explain what that is.
Well, in the 1960s, the Ford Foundation helped to create the field of public interest law. You and I were both trained in law, went to law school. There were public interest law clinics when we went to law school. And those law clinics were about providing legal services for the poor, the disadvantaged, working to protect the environment. These ideas came out of a body of work that Ford and others invested in the 1960s because lawyers were critical to the progress of society. Well, today, technologists are critical. And within the field of and the industry and the Academy of Computer Science, computational math and the systems that build our AI and all of this digital world that we now are living in, there is no sector, there is no within the space of technology, a public interest identified. The public interest is what the private sector has told us it is. And so we need computer scientists, technologists, trained who might go into private industry to say, we're going to use these skills in the public interest to support issues of environmental rights, protecting the rights of women, of people in vulnerable circumstances. There are so many ways in which we need a more public-minded technology sector. When you look at some of those early hearings in Congress, the lack of preparation to engage on the part of our elected officials was a reflection of the lack of capacity within the offices of our Congresspeople. There are very few people, you can count on two hands, with masters or PhDs in computer science on the Hill. If any other industry or sector, financial services, healthcare, a group of CEOs appears before a congressional hearing, sitting behind those Congresspeople are smart, credentialed experts who are their eyes and ears on the issue. We don't have that widespread. It's just now taking off with the work of organizations like Tech Congress and organizations working, many of whom we support, to provide more technology, more technologists to work for the public interest.
For public interest technology, how do you move the needle, as it were? I mean, looking back, when we talk about clinical law, both of us know about from law school, as I recall, Ford Foundation actually funded the original clinical law programs in the United States. Do you do this in the universities to try to expose young computer scientists, as it were, to the ideas of public interest technology? Do you do it in private corporations? Is it in the government? Is it up on Capitol Hill? Where do you try to get into this?
So it is a multi-pronged approach. One, we need within the academy to impact the curricula. What computer science students are taught needs to be broader, not just ethics, but we're going to solve these problems when we have a technologist, a political scientist, a policy researcher in the room together. So we need to affect the curricula. We need to create pathways from the university through internships. And then ultimately, we need pro bono programs, the same way we have in the law, where you have some of the best and brightest law students who choose initially or maybe never to go into private industry, but to say, I'm going to work for a nonprofit, I'm going to work for the government, as opposed to working in private industry. Or, just as we have in the law, you work in private industry, but you have an allocation of hours in a year that you can devote to public interest technology issues.
This is a big idea in its early going, I dare say. Do you think it's taken root? Will it continue and grow, do you believe?
Well, recently there was a congressional hearing on technology issues. And one of the organizations we support had a list of all of the staffers who were helping support the congressmen and women on that committee with research and policy and the evidence they need to be able to engage on behalf of the public. So yes, it is small and incremental, and I wish it moved faster, but at the end of the day, we're seeing progress and we should be very encouraged.
As you look toward, not at, but toward the time you stepped down from Ford, what's the biggest thing you didn't get a chance to get to?
I would say we haven't done enough for rural America. I feel we have, through our programming there, made progress in elevating some of the challenges, but we need to do more in this country to understand the plight of people in rural communities. The degree of devastation as a result of the opioid epidemic, for example, is something that we were late to the game. I in all candor, believe we're now working on these issues in rural America, but I think our politics today, in part, reflect that too many people feel left behind and left out, not only in rural America, in many parts of this country, but we, particularly those of us who live in places like New York City, need to understand what is happening in our country and the degree to which some people, some communities feel marginalized, feel left out and left behind.